Unfortunately, that's the only thing they found out. What he's doing in the forest is any further the animals can get really territorial. They may be best of the best in Anbus, but sometimes they feel they were actually the ones being watched. Somehow wherever they go, they always find two adult tigers watching them the entire time. The two felines may look relaxed, but somehow their entire front is always facing them. It's like they were ready to pounce on moment's notice. Thankfully none of the ninjas react rashly. They think as long as the kid is alright, they didn't need to start something like the Hyugas did in the past. In the end, the Hokage hoped the two would eventually make up and get to know each other better. People like Naruto can never have too many family members, hence why the Hokage was more than happy to approve his request. Every one of his students has their own faults. The Hokage hoped the boy can see past that and get a little friendlier with them.
Unexpected arrivals.
As part of Konoha continues in its cleanup process, another part and problem came in the form of Akatsuki. To be more specific, it's Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki duo. They were found strolling causally through the streets of Konoha like they were part of the system. Since most ninjas were either busy or just minding their own business, no one came to question their presence until a few high-ranking Jonins recognizing them. "We are looking for the Yondaime's legacy," explains the elder Uchiha. Naturally, Kakashi easily deduced whom they want. "Do you think we will just tell?" He didn't get to finish when Asuma responded nonchalantly as he buffs his cancer stick. "He's left with Jiraiya this morning. Said something about a mission." His shocking response caused not just his comrades looking his way, the two Akatsuki members too paused to stare in his direction. They knew he's one of the framed Fire Guardians. They couldn't help but wondered the reason he's giving them real intel. The situation is like bandits robbing a merchant, where the merchants happily shove them their merchandises while laughing about it. There's no doubt in their minds that the information is genuine and authentic, seeing how the rest of the Jonins react.
The only question is what purpose in giving them the actual whereabouts of their target. "Azuma, what are you doing?" The two Akatsukis too were interested in what he has to say. However, the bored-looking and cigarette-smoking ninja respond like he didn't really care. "I wanted to meet Naruto. Let them." After all, the boy isn't called the most surprising and unpredictable ninja for nothing. The way he said it and smile only made the two missing nins shiver, but they wouldn't believe a genin can do anything to them. They are not just jonin level. They are in fact, almost cage material. Then again, the kid had always a knack to both shock and surprise missing nins, so why not let them deal with him? There's definitely something going on, but logically they think Asuma is just trying some reverse psychology on them.
To a third person the explanation doesn't seem to mean anything, but to those within the village they couldn't agree but nod their heads. Obvious this reaction from the group surprised both missing nins. Only Kisame was more vocal about this. What can a genin do to S-rank nuke nin like them? Itachi may be a prodigy and also once a Konoha ninja, but like Kakashi at the time he was out of Konoha for a long time. He's also isn't one for gossip, thus was kept in the dark about Naruto and the Hulk being the same person. He may have heard here and there about a green beast in the village, but at the time he may have mistaken them talking about Might Guy. Thanks to his abnormal relationship with Kakashi, they became #1 gossip material before the Hulk. The Uchiha prodigy didn't want to get into the same mess, seeing Guy targeted Kakashi because he's a prodigy. Not wanted to get himself involved or get dragged into a village-wide marathon run, he stayed wisely away from them. It's one reason why most ninjas too kept their distance. Only Kakashi seemed somewhat able to ignore him with his "Did you say something?" routine to throw him off. Unfortunately for others, they will be compelled to join him one way or another. Despite the strange way he dress and look, Guy is quite a motivational speaker. Therefore those unfortunate enough to get caught by his theatrics will be forced to join in his crazy workout. While the exercises are good for them, no one wants to be a physical freak like he is. At the same time many couldn't help but respect him, knowing he repeats the same workout every single day. It's something most ninjas lack, so no one talk bad about his activities. At least after taking an apprentice Rock Lee, he mellowed out and focused mostly on his students, but from time to time some poor soul would still get caught up in his routines. Coming back to the awkward scene, since the two have already got what they want, they quickly left the village. Itachi took out Kakashi with his Mangekyo Sharingan, making sure no one dares to fight them or stop their escape. They easily made it out of the village and without anyone following them.
First meeting. Itachi and Kisame got to the door of the Jinchuriki's room and knocked. After a while, the door opens, but instead of the blonde whisker boy, a huge green giant took his place. "Sorry, wrong room," says Itachi before going back to double check with the reception. It's just a small room so they could see no one else was there, and as far as their sense tell them, the big guy is the only one there. Funny the two never stopped to think how the giant got in the room in the first place.
When the two made it back to the front desk, they explicitly asked for a blonde boy with whisker marks. Not surprisingly, the host redirected them back to the same room, saying how she found him such a cutie as she happens to recall his distinctive marks. Kisame was especially livid on his way back because he thought the brat had hanged himself. What's more infuriating is he managed to fool them. What's wrong with the brat? The big and muscular part one can understand, but why green? You are one to talk. You are blue, says his partner calmly as they slowly made their way back. Shut up, Itachi. They found themselves back at the same very door they left, only this time they didn't bother to knock. Naturally, Kisame was the one still pissed for being fooled by such simple trick as well as his partner's color remark. So without announcing themselves, he kicked the door open before storming inside. Seeing the same giant in the room, sitting there like nothing had happened. Obviously he got even more furious. The brat is still trying to fool them. He thought the brat's still playing his stupid game. To not even bothering to run, he's definitely mocking him. Not caring what his leader says, he will teach the brat a lesson, then cut off his legs. So without warning he bashes whom he thought was the brat on the head with his sword Samahata. Then to his surprise there isn't any poofing sound.
Itachi, it doesn't look like a henge. Itachi, Itachi. Only to find his partner long gone. Turning to face the giant, he can now see why he left. The word angry would be an understatement because it could look more furious than what he can see. Not bothering to hang around and think of an excuse, the ex-mist ninja quickly exits the room, closing the door in the progress. He didn't have time to think how the big guy got in the first place. Obviously getting away now is his top priority. If he had put his mind into it, it's natural someone his size wouldn't fit through such small door, so it would bring the initial question of how he got in there in the first place.
Not that there is a bolt for him to lock the door with or anything, but he had hoped it would buy him some time as well as slowing down the big fella. For any normal person, the time to reach for the handle, turning, unlocking and opening would be quite a hassle process. At least it would give Kisame time to reach to the end of the corridor. Unfortunately, to his horror, the green monster crashed and came out through the wall instead. That's the cue for the new cannon to start running, hence how he ended up passing his partner. Itachi was moving away calmly from what he considers a danger zone. Whatever that thing is, he pretend he's no involved. It was his plan until his partner sprint past. He quickly found out why just as the Hulk came around the corner and closing in fast. Normally in such small space, the smaller they are the better they can maneuver. Sadly this logic doesn't seem to work on the giant. He is literally remodeling the corridors as he plows through everything. The so-called obstacles in his way didn't even slow him down, hence why Itachi had to do a quick shunshin to get to his partner, but the two did not stop running. When they came to the end of the passageway, the two crashed through upper floor window and onto the streets below. They continue their flight outside as there's no telling whether that thing would give chase or not. Sadly they didn't need to turn around to know it was right behind them. They can still hear all the chaos that followed as well as the destruction it brought along. Hulk smash bad ninja. His angry statement just told them exactly how close he is to them.
In that moment, Sasuke decides to show up just as the two passes him. Itachi. He thought he saw his brother, but sadly he didn't get a chance to do anything as his teammate steps over him. The Hulk's too angry to care at this moment, as he's furious at the two ninjas barging into his life. Not to forget the fish ninja that smacked his face with his stupid stick. The other may not have done anything, but since they both arriving at the same time, they will both suffer the same consequences. It's just a matter of which one is unlucky enough to be caught first. How did the Hulk showed up in the hotel, you may ask? It all started after Naruto received instructions on his Rasengan training. Thanks to the lack of progress, it's obvious our blonde hero's frustrated. Then there's also his teacher Jiraiya going on to so-called stupid research times, leaving him alone to figure things out on his own. He may be young, but he isn't stupid. Having found him several times inside brothels made him understand just exactly what the Sanin's been doing.
Having spotted the nice-looking woman they passed earlier, the blonde knew exact what his guardian plans to do with her. So when Jiraiya sent him ahead and left him waiting in the hotel, Naruto let slip his frustration, thus changing him to his alternative form. Thankfully the Hulk didn't destroy the hotel, as he was more confused than angry. It should be known that the Hulk may always be angry, but if the object of his irk not visible, the big guy would be lost because he wouldn't know why he's there. At least thanks to the pandas, the Hulk knew what to do in this situation. It's the why he's doing his meditation. Years living inside Konoha made him a little cautious when he's inside a building. While many of the new structures were built to sustain him, there are still others not prepared for his mass.
Like a child afraid of breaking something precious to his parents, he didn't want the Hawkage sad or angry with him. Deep down the Hulk understood how his Gigi see Konoha as his home, and something precious. Thus the Hulk never intentionally break or demolish something. It's by this behavior that the Sandaime start seeing him as part Naruto, because he had the exact same expression after he was caught in his pranks. Then again, if something gets the Hulk angry, it's another story.
Coming back to the inn, he was lucky he knew how to calm himself. By picturing himself in the same serene waterfall, he proceeds to relax and meditate. That's when the two Akatsuki members decides to show up, which eventually lead to this cat and mouse chase.
Back to the chase. The two have been trying to ditch the giant, but surprisingly, the big guy is quite agile despite its size. No matter where they turn and hide themselves, the big giant always finds them. It was as if it has a sixth sense. Later, they also found out his hearing isn't bad neither. Too bad Kisame had to find this out the hard way. At one point, they thought they have lost him as they hid behind a wall. Do you think we've lost him? Kisame was only whispering, and almost immediately the Hulk plows through and right next to where the fish ninja spoke. Itachi turned around in shock, only to find himself locked with the giant's stare. Sadly, his partner Kisame was nowhere to be found. Only a suspicious blue hand was visible. Not taking any chances, Itachi grabs the hand as he flees, dragging his blue partner out of the debris, and along with him. Naturally, it's the cat and mouse chase all over again. It seems the Hulk was more angry at Kisame than at Itachi, because as soon as the fish-looking ninja is out, the Hulk snarled. Then immediately give chase. Kisame, next time please stay quiet until we are out of the town. But I was just whispering. Whether he had good hearing or not, they never got a chance to find out because the Hulk never lost sight of them. After having the entire wall caving in on them, they learned not to hide or try concealing themselves anywhere in its path. The giant can will literally pulverize everything. They even tried distracting it by leaving a few water clones as their replacement. Sadly, one squeeze from the giant, they burst like water balloons, thus splashing his face full of water. Hulk angry, Hulk tear bad ninjas to pieces. Sadly, it only served to anger the huge giant more, making him more determined to rip them both apart. The two had to run even faster while diving to the sides to avoid being casualties of a stampede. There may be just one Hulk chasing them, but none would disagree. It wouldn't be any different to a stampede of wild animals. Even the normally composed Uchiha starts glaring at his fishman partner. Please kiss him, just don't try any more bright ideas. The ex-Kiri ninja wanted to refute, but couldn't find any reasonable excuses, so he shut up and ran like his partner.
That's how they came back to the same place just as Sasuke picks himself up. Itachi, this is all your fault. Typical spoiled child, blaming all his misfortunes on his brother. It's one reason why he didn't even see them coming from behind as both parties steps over him, knocking him again unconscious. Did you hear someone call your name, Itachi? Questioned the Nukenin, whom first stepped over the smaller Uchiha. Shut up and run. As they speak, the Hulk continues to gain distance, thus the two didn't have time even for small talks. For every step the giant took, the two needed at least 3 steps to cover the same distance, hence why Itachi didn't want to be sidetracked. He too had to watch out for the leap because one jump the big guy can overshot them, hence how they have been going in circles, and unfortunately the giant doesn't even look least bit tired.
Some may ask, why didn't they just shunshin away? Missing nins like them should be able to do them, right? Well, they did try, but after 2 attempts they were better off without them. Apparently it takes time to focus where you want to go, then after execution they will have to re-coordinate themselves. E.g., balance, new environment, positions, etc. They were fine the first time, but somehow the green giant seems to have extra senses for them, thus leap in their direction, in 2 seconds flat. At the time they were lucky. Itachi made eye contact, thus knew he's coming. Unfortunately, the second time they tried, the two had to duck and roll just as the giant's hand almost had them. It's like it can smell them like a hound dead on their asses. Bloody good instincts, commented the Uchiha family killer. Since then, the two never try another shunshin. Unknown to the 3, there are also 2 local constables watching the scene. So, do we give chase? Asks one. Somehow they reassemble the same Izumo and Kotetsu from Konoha. Do you have cuffs big enough for the big guy? As the other ponder on the question. Then again, let's say you somehow manage to apprehend the big guy. Where do you plan to put him? They can already picture the scene and figured it's more troublesome than it's worth. Let's just keep everyone away until the problem solves itself. So they took the wisest option. Good idea. Nobody can say we aren't doing our job.
Naturally, these 2 were promoted by the mayor afterwards for their excellent job well done. Both for keeping the peace as well as getting all the civilians to safety. Obviously the 2 omitted the part where they have the lack of, right, tools for not apprehending them.
At least they knew who's responsible when Jiraiya appear and start asking questions. Those 2 are missing nins and the big guy is a Konoha ninja. I will chase after them now. Just send the bill to Konoha for any damages and we will reimburse you. He learned that Naruto made tons of money on construction adverts and Sandane is using them to pay for all the damages by the Hulk, thus the reason he told them to send the bill to Konoha. While they may have to pay for the cost of reconstruction, at the same time they were actually advertising themselves. In the end, it's another mission to Konoha. Usually such operation will need some form of negotiation, such as how they fix the damages and where they get the materials, etc. Hence, in a way, Konoha are better off because they would have complete control in the deal. In addition, people will hear about the Hulk from Konoha, so it's kind of win-win situation.
Then again, due to the appearances of 2 missing nins and the Hulk is actually chasing them, they would think they were being protected. They made it convincing since Kisame did fire one of his monster jutsus in the middle of the busy streets.
This happened at some point when Kisame thought it was a good idea to fight. Hang on, we are both S-class missing nins. Why are we even running? Good idea, Kisame. Why don't you clear us a path? It was probably sarcasm coming from a usually composed Uchiha, but the fishman was more action than diplomat, so he slows down to cast his Mega Jutsu. Shinobis his caliber can complete the hand sequences within seconds before initiating their attack. Kisame obviously could do this with much shorter time, but his power would be more devastating thanks to the size of his chakra pool. With his overwhelming chakra reserves, his jutsus could be considered as area effect attacks. He isn't called a chakra monster, or sometimes nicknamed tailless-tailed beast, for no reason because he does have BU-sized chakra pool. So when he fires his water dragon jutsu, the effect was like a huge stream of water with a head of a dragon, the size of a small house. It was especially effective when it hits the Hulk almost at point-blank range. However, what Kisame didn't anticipate was a green fist coming out of his own jutsu before hitting him with a haymaker. The punch not only cut off his jutsu, it sends him over to his partner. From the looks of it, Itachi never stopped running, nor turned around to glance at the confrontation. Without even stopping, Itachi caught his partner easily as he flipped him upright as Kisame joins back in the race. "Did you know that was gonna happen?" quizzes the fishman. Seeing that Uchiha had never stopped running, he thought his partner knew something he didn't. "No, but I had a feeling it wouldn't go so well," says the prodigy Uchiha nonchalantly. Kisame never bothered going into the blame game. They were both professionals, and he knew his partner well enough to know he wouldn't try something unless he absolutely sure it would work. Unknown to him, Itachi did already tried his genjutsu subtly, and found it not only ineffective, he had a hard time redirecting its chakra flow. Genjutsu was all about manipulating a person's chakra, changing the signals what the brain perceives in order to build the illusion. It was the reason why specialists needed extremely fine chakra control for the more complex versions to work. The concept was similar, the henge. You needed fine observation as well as details for perfection. Thus, the most complex genjutsu would require master-level manipulation on all body senses in order to make them believable. Hence, when Itachi tries to apply his genjutsu, he found himself unable to change its flow, thus knowing just how extremely dangerous the big guy is. It was another reason why he kept running while his partner tests his luck. The elder Uchiha was not 100% sure of his theory, but since Kisame volunteers, he is happy to let him test his theory for him. Of course, he didn't voice his reason out loud for obvious reasons, especially to a partner that you will be working with for unknown period of time. Later, a third member joins the duo, and it's none other than Jiraiya. Somehow, he appears some distance ahead of the two Akatsuki members before introducing himself as the gallant Toad Sannin. Sadly, his brilliant introduction was ignored as the two missing nins ran past him and kept on running. Jiraiya can only scratch his head, wondering what freaked them out. He soon finds the reason when a very angry-looking Hulk appeared around the corner and uppercutted him. Apparently, the Hulk remembered why he was angry in the first place, remembering how the Sannin ditched him, Naruto. He may not understand the reason of his anger, but he only knew he wanted to bash the Sannin. So with a snarl, he sent him over like a bullet to those ninjas, hoping Jiraiya could either slow them down or knock them out. As Sannin, he naturally recovers quickly as he rolled to break his fall before resume his running alongside the two Akatsuki members. From the look of it, the Hulk somehow got more angry since the Sannin shown up. Seeing how angry his godson is, Jiraiya knew one punch wouldn't be enough. He had received enough of those from his female teammate to understand that Hulk angry, Hulk kills Sannin trash. His words reminded Jiraiya why it's not wise to get his godson angry with him.
While the saying, "if you can't beat them, join them," doesn't apply here, but the Sannin had another ulterior motive. If he is going to get beaten, he might as well join those sharing the same fate. At least this way he hoped he wouldn't get the full course treatment from the big guy. The phase, "misery loves company," is pretty fitting at this point.
Jiraiya, why don't do us a favor and go run elsewhere? He was angry the Sannin is running along like they were pals. No way. If I'm going to get beaten, I will make sure to take you goons with me. As the two groups banter, the Hulk almost caught them. The three quickly ducked and roll away before resuming their retreat. True to his words, the Sannin rejoins and stuck with them like glue. Kisame was furious but couldn't afford to voice his anger because it would slow him down, so instead he concentrated all his efforts on his legs. He will have to leave all the planning to his partner like always. They knew what the Sannin's thinking but sadly couldn't shake him off, hoping to get the giant off their backs. It's unfortunate that the Sannin isn't just strong, he is also persistent. Both missing men seems to know what the Sannin's thinking as they tried to shake him off several times, hoping the green giant would leave them alone and chase him instead. Sadly, the Toad Sannin isn't just strong, he was also persistent. Thus he stuck with them like glue no matter where they go. He too hoped they would give up and get the Hulk to forget about him. At least until he cools down or turns back to Naruto. He will have to worry about Naruto later. If the Hulk catches him, there is no telling whether he would skin him alive or not. Better safe than sorry. Itachi and Kisame could split up, but both members of the Akatsuki knew the other would eventually be captured. As individuals, none of them would be a match against the Sannin, due to his resourcefulness and wide range of skills. Jiraiya can both defeat and eventually catch any of them. With the green monster added to the mix, the situation would be more complicated. Unfortunately, the most likely scenario would be Kisame and Jiraiya gets beaten. Then the Sannin recovering, then take the other as prisoner. Out of the two, the ex-Miss Ninja was less nimble, thus why the Sannin is likely to target him. For this reason, Itachi uses other plan he never ever wanted to use, hence, he took out a book and threw it at the Sannin. "Hey Jiraiya, please sign my icha-icha." It was a literature he was familiar with, hence why the surprise. Out of reflex, the white-haired Sannin changed direction and leaped for the book only to realize it was a trap. Oh. He was grabbed by the leg in mid-air as the Hulk proceeded to slam him around. Wham, 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 wham. Censored due to graphical violence, months of frustration, kicking off the chasm, being left behind only so the Sannin can peek at women. Not to mention spending all his hard-earned Ryo, leaving him with only a few scraps. It was like the dark side of Naruto emerging, thus why Jiraiya is getting his due, perhaps with a little interest. Itachi and Kisame never did stop running, but did turn their heads enough to see the last moments of the gallant Toad Sannin. Oh my god. Kisame didn't know he could ever use those words. To say the scene was brutal would be a huge understatement. The Sannin was like a teddy bear in the hand of a spoiled brat with a temper tantrum. He was literally being smacked around repeatedly without mercy. His Uchiha partner too felt disturbed, as he was the one that set the Sannin up for the fall, so he made a silent prayer for the ninja. As the beating continues, the two missing nins never once slowed down nor stopped running. As a matter of fact, they ran faster in hopes to put as much distance between them, so the crazy giant wouldn't catch up. Against such devastating treatment, even the gods would cringe or cower. Somewhere in Asgard, Loki received an unconditional shiver but ignores the feeling. One Hulk from one universe is enough, he didn't need look into another.
After a while, and as if to put the final nail in the coffin, the Hulk finished the Sannin off with a few stomps, sending him 3 feet deep into the dirt. When he finally finished venting out all his pent-up frustration, the Hulk started remembering the other two that started all this. By the time he found them, there was only a trail of dust in the distance and knew he couldn't catch them anymore. Angry for his lost targets and nowhere to vent his remaining frustration, the giant uprooted a nearby tree and threw it in their direction. Grumpily, the Hulk trudged his way out of the area, going God knows where he wants to go. Shortly afterwards, Jiraiya's small but pained voice can be heard, as he left. Obviously he didn't want another beatdown, thus had to wait until he can no longer hear him. Surprisingly, another voice answered after sticking its head out for a sneak peek. It was the elder Toad Fukasaku. "Man, that kid of yours sure have some anger issues."
Apparently Jiraiya had the foresight to summon the elder Toad as insurance. Thankfully, it saved his life as the elder Toad gathered sage chakra, thus giving him the much-needed protection. Even his last bath incident with his teammate never got him to close to death's door. Compared to his hot-tempered female teammate, he dared say Godson's worst.
Nevertheless, at least he didn't forget to have someone keep an eye on him. "Fukasaku, please send a Toad to watch over the big guy and only approach after he changes back to the kid." Naturally, the old Toad agreed. The request and task's not too difficult as long as the amphibian's not discovered.
Also, please send another Toad to find Tsunade and fetch her for me. I think the kid did more than broken a few things. Even with Sage Chakra, it couldn't protect him from the brutality the Hulk inflicted upon him. He only managed to spit out what he had to say before falling unconscious. Sighing and shaking his own little head, the old Toad unsummons himself and orders a few message and tracking Toads to do as their contractor asks. He will also leave a warrior Toad to guard Jiraiya because he doubt anyone should move him. After a while, the two finally found time to catch their break. None of them could believe they had been running for hours. I think that green thing was the demon container we have been looking for. I heard rumors of giant monster sightings around the leap. Unknown to Itachi, that rumor was due to Monster Pig and Rhino dropping in a city out of nowhere. See Chapter 9 in the Omakes? Ninja Turtles. No way, have you seen what it did to Jiraiya? No ninja from Konoha would trash another from the same village. Sannin or no Sannin, perhaps. Even Itachi was not sure. Then again, where was Naruto in all this? Come on, let's go, we still have to report to leader. That was as far as he got until a crash interrupts his departure. Silence was all there is as Itachi slowly turns around. Even as a prodigy, he didn't know how to describe his current situation. Instead of his partner, he found an inverted pine tree in his place. Again, it may seem like Itachi's playing cool. The fact is, he's actually contemplating his options while at the same time analyzing it. It's not often you find a tree in your path. Or perhaps someone's using a tree instead of a log for substitution. Thankfully, the Uchiha is a very private person, thus kept his thoughts to himself. In his final conclusion, he concluded with high certainty his partner is in fact under it, and their report will be highly likely to be delayed. He's confident because he can still hear his partner's faint but unmistakable groans. At least he's alive. Now he must figure out how to get him out safely. He had a feeling that burning the tree with his fire would be a big no, as image of fish on a stick fills his head. Why did he join the Akatsuki again? He asks himself again within his mind. Despite all his S-rank missions, no one taught him how to rescue someone from under a tree. Either way, it will be a long while for that report. He wondered if he should include his rescue attempts. Well, it's true as the Hulk somehow managed to find the biggest and oldest tree. Not to mention a wild chakra tree that's not actually cultivated. It just happens to make rescuing a lot more difficult. Thanks to the war and ninjutsu being thrown around, some plants became immune or adapt to them as part of their ecological system. It's how people learned and discovered chakra paper, as some trees evolved to absorb them as part of the needed energy.
Kisami's just unlucky as the Hulk got the last hit to complete his little revenge. In the long run, Itachi wondered if they should start training their senses to watch out for falling trees. It seems quite lethal and efficient since no one can anticipate it, nor were there any chakra usage.
It's especially deadly when it comes at every ninja's blind spot by attacking from above. He heard there's rumor of an expert in Konoha whom trained diligently for this by glazing at the clouds daily. It's Shikamaru, in case you don't get the joke, because he likes cloud watching. Tsunade Senju.
When Tsunade finally showed up, and to the astonishment of those present, she howled with laughter. She must have remembered one of her old jokes, probably one where she warned her perverted teammate one day he will get what's coming to him. At least from her perspective, he looked like he had been trying to peek at women only to find a herd of elephants, thus got himself trampled. His injuries too seem to support her theory, as it's the only explanation.
Her explanation only seemed to amuse Fukasaku, as he too heard about his summoner's illicit activities from Gamabunta. Hence he too found the scene funny. Shizune too tries to contain her inner demons for not laughing too loud as sign of respect to the Toad Sannin. As for Jiraiya, he's probably heard them, but he's less inclined to comment. So after making sure he's safe to move, they took him to the nearest abandoned building for further treatment. Apparently there were quite a few empty buildings and abandoned villages within Fire Country. Wars tend to do that to people, as ninjas use small villages as battling ground, or as hideouts, sometimes wiping out everyone from within. Any survivors would never return, thinking it's either cursed or the memories just too much for them to bear. It's sad, but that's the ninja world reality. Therefore, it's not difficult for them to find a temporary place. Relocating the patient isn't hard either, as both teacher and apprentice were no strangers to medical emergencies. Once he's stabilized and comfortably resting, the Konoha's best medic couldn't help but turn to the elder Toad for the full story. Jokes aside, they were pretty serious injuries, aside from their old incident in the baths between them. Tsunade had never seen more injuries on her teammate. Even a fight against a massive gorilla without using chakra wouldn't give him such life-threatening results. Nearly all his bones were broken, not to forget his internal organs, as they were in shock. He might look the same had he fell from space and crash landed on a farm, only intact. According to her diagnoses, he should be dead. Despite her query, Tsunade guessed correctly. He was only saved because of his Sage Mode, but what's more interesting is how the injury still get through even when the ultimate ninjutsu was used. Seriously, just what did my stupid teammate do to get into such sorry state? The question was directed at the Elder Toad because he's the only one that seems to know what's going on. As for Jiraiya, he's bandaged like a mummy from head to toe, so it's a little difficult for him to explain himself. Ah, Tsunade-chan. I think it may be a little difficult for you to believe, but the one responsible was little Jiraiya's new apprentice. What, the blonde shrimp? Not believing one bit that the kid could even accomplish that. As much as she wanted to show respect to the Toad Elder, she couldn't help but be a little skeptical, hence her outburst. She had long sensed the kid but decided not to say anything because she was too busy fixing her annoying teammate. Fukasaku ignored her little outburst and continued his tale. To be honest, apprentice is probably the wrong type of relationship between them, as the kid's other personality seems to really dislike him. Other personality? Inquiries the medical expert. Like I said, it's complicated. After a while, Tsunade decides to change the topic anyway. What in the name of sages are you guys doing here? Everyone turns to Jiraiya only to sweat drop as he's in no condition to tell them anything. The only reason he could talk before was all thanks to his Sage Mode, which he used to split out his SOS message before passing out.
Ahem, I think they were looking for you, says the old toad. Something about going back to the village. I heard Jiraiya-chan said Konoha's looking for a new Hokage. To say Tsunade was shocked would be an understatement, as for years she avoided the cursed village, now they want her as Hokage. No way, I was through with that village.
Having said her piece, she turns to her assistant. Come on, Shizune, pack our things, we are leaving. Jiraiya wanted to stop her, but all he do is wiggle his damaged body while at the same time making muffled noises. Then again, it must have been extremely painful as he winces every time he tries something. Thankfully, she was stopped by our blonde hero's intervention. How can you say that? Don't you care what happens to Konoha? He could not understand why anyone would hate his home. Despite the people hating him in the beginning, Naruto loved his village. Then there's the Ichirakus, as they were the nicest people he knew. What do you know? You are just a kid still in your diapers. You don't know anything. A little angry, the woman's calling him a baby, and avoid answering his question? He fired back. Just who the hell are you? And which village you come from? What did Konoha ever do to you? Just what's the academy been teaching you, brats? If you don't know who I am, then you should go back to the academy. Again, she continues to belittle him and not answering his questions. People like you shouldn't be even out here. You will only get yourself killed. The Hokages know better. Every single one of them dying their stupid, pointless deaths. She continued her narration, this time dragging the Hokage into her explanation.
Shut up, he cut in. Naruto had had enough. This woman can belittle him, insult him, but when it comes to the Hokages he couldn't hold back. Don't you dare talk down the Hokages while I am here. They were the village's greatest heroes and I don't wanna hear some drunk woman sprout nonsense about them. You know why? Because one day my head will be alongside theirs. Apparently what the kid had said may have triggered some unwanted memories as Tsunade too blew her top.
Jiraiya should have expected that, having the two hot heads together and in the same room, is just a disaster waiting to happen. Unfortunately, he had anticipated himself to be there, at least as mediator, but it seems like it's currently spiraling out of control. Initially, Jiraiya brought Naruto along was because he's almost the same age as Nawaki when he died. Along with his similar looks and almost identical passion in becoming the next Hokage, he hoped it would move his stubborn teammate. At least he thought it would somewhat make it easier when he broached the subject. Sadly, he miscalculated, and these two are already butting heads. That's it, kid. Let's take this outside. I will teach you a lesson to not say what you don't mean. Lead the way, you old hag. I will teach you not to diss the position of Hokage. Whether she's old or not, apparently that nickname will stick, hence why Tsunade's so pissed. Don't call me an old hag, you brat. That's the last the remaining occupants could hear as the two disappear from the building. Showdown. Once they were outside, Tsunade's just about to set the terms. You got guts, kid, so I will give you a handicap and use only one fin. What the? She couldn't finish her sentence when the impossible happened. What was once a shrimpy kid grew and inflate until he's a mountain-sized humanoid. Another thing that baffles even the greatest medic is it's green. In the ninja world, the cases of unnatural and unusual events are usually connected to ninjutsu, thus, why ninja villages were often given the missions to investigate. Like the Akimichi multi-size and Aburame hive bodies, they were good examples as they were results from centuries of clan practice to get to where they are. However, while the two were very different in nature, they both were only possible due to chakra. They were limits and boundaries that human bodies can reach with uses of chakra that fascinates doctors and researchers. It's not a normal process that any civilians can go through, hence why they were called clan secrets. They were created in old desperate times where ninja families experiment on their offsprings or family members in order to give birth a stronger bloodline. Aside from inbreeding between families, they may go into extremes such as consuming poison on a daily basis so their body can become immune to them. Over time, new generations of the clan became stronger, thus prolonging their survival as well as their value. Take the Aburames, for example. In the beginning, they could be just insect lovers, or perhaps training them like they were pets. As time goes by, they may have taken the hives like backpacks into battle as they command them. Generations later, one member may have thought of taking the colony into their body. No doubt there's much trial and error, but over time and evolution, it finally becomes in reality, hence where they are today.
Continuing this way of thinking, the Akimichis would be no different as they try different methods to increase their size. Therefore, it's not hard to imagine the hardships each clan had to go through to get to where they are now. It's how they developed their secrets until it became a safe practice for the whole clan.
Coming back to the fight, the Element Nation's greatest medic may not know the true secrets of the clans. However, what they all have in common are they require some form of chakra manipulation. Hence, when she sensed Nan coming from the boy giant, it perked her curiosity. As for Naruto, on the other hand, he was at first a little embarrassed for being the main culprit of his temporary sensei's condition. Despite being told by his toad companion, it's not his fault, he kept himself scarce and distant. Then again, he wasn't feeling very sorry as the super pervert did take away all his money, then spent it all on brothels. The most unforgivable part was him telling him it's his way of gathering intel, saying his little sacrifice is for the good of the village. Our blonde hero may be a little naive, but at least he can hear a bullshit when it's been said. Unknown to the others, Naruto did a marvelous job keeping his anger contained. It was all thanks to his training in meditation. He can now rein in his transformation to an extent. Hence, when they were in the open, he let go of his restraints regardless what the woman says. She will have to talk to the Hulk instead. Natural instincts versus Sannin-trained medic. Then again, this is another Sannin, and based on his past history with them, it came as no surprise why the Hulk had very low opinion of them. The first were simply nuts. The second, a proud owner of the title, super pervert. Then the third and last, an alcoholic bitch. It's like there's almost a connection how they became like this. Personality-wise, Naruto isn't one to let others to fight his fight for him. However, over time he sees his other self no different to himself. And the same can also be said for his alter ego. Evidently, it's how the Hulk also responds to the name Naruto, yet calls himself Hulk at the same time. In the meantime, since he's already angry, it's less troublesome to fight while trying to suppress his own anger. Hence, why he let go of his restraints. As for the Hulk, as soon as he's out, his focus was locked onto the target of his fury. Thus why he came charging to the last Senju. He did it by launching himself forward with one kick, making him look like he had shot himself towards the stunned Sannin. Considering his size and mass, it's no surprise why she's shocked, just as he smashes into her.
Poor Tsunade, despite being a little intoxicated, she was ill-prepared to take on such a foe. At least in the very last moment she managed a split-seconded defense as she shielded herself with both of her arms. Then again, it didn't do her much good as the blows just too powerful, thus she was shot away like a bullet and into the wall of an old building. The hit may have been successful, but our giant friend's far from finished as he growls then start charging after his opponent. Obviously he's heading towards the Sanin-shaped hole, and from the looks of it he will pulverize the entire building regardless whether his opponent's there or not.
However, just as he's about to storm into the hole, a fist struck out and hit him in the jaw. Then, like a dynamite explosion, an extra force blasted from the fist, thus sending our supersized hero away. The Hulk ended up crashing into the opposite building, completely demolishing it in the process. He looked shocked for a moment, rubbing his jaw, but quickly got over it as he growled in anger. Spitting out a loose tooth, he picked himself up before turning to the source of his irritation. Almost at the same time, Tsunade too exits from hers, ripping off her already ripped green jacket. She hadn't figured out what's going on, but isn't one to back down from a challenge. She's also infuriated but did not know why. It could have been from not finishing her speech, getting sucker punched, or just herself frozen like she was a genin. Then again, there's also the brat bringing back her ill-forgotten pain. Either way, she's going to kick some butt. That one freebie was not something to take lightly because it did give her a minor concussion. Hence, one thing she knew about her opponent is that he can take what he can dish out. Therefore, there's little need for her to hold back. As to her injury, it's easily fixed, as all she had to do is pump chakra to the effect area, and her body will do the rest. A simple means in accelerating the body's healing process. After all, she's not called the greatest medic for no reason.
Just as the two stood facing one another, it's clear from the two's stance the fight was far from over. In fact, from the look on the two's expressions, the exchange before was simply just an introduction. Without any warning, the two dashed at one another, meeting again in the middle. They were almost exact mirrors of each, right fist meeting right in an instant.
Tsunade and her chakra-induced explosive punch against the Hulk's indomitable fist. Surprisingly, the end result was a draw as the two formidable forces cancelled one another. However, their surroundings weren't lucky as the impact triggered some kind of shockwave, thus producing cracks on nearby houses. Not just the buildings, as the very ground they stood suffer heavy damage. Yet the two show no signs of stopping. Instead, they took the opportunity to step into another stance, as they prepare to trade blows against one another. Fists into fists, yet none connect to its intended target. Somehow the two were so alike that they are almost fighting the exact mirror of themselves. No matter where they swing their fists, they would end in each other's blows. At first, this was what it may have seemed like, but in reality, it's actually the Sanin that's forced to change her attack pattern. She may not be afraid, but she knew a threat when she sees one. While the two may not have made any significant progress against one another, the same cannot be said to their surroundings. As for every blow they delivered, the ground shook and walls cracked. In fact, after 4 exchanges, the nearest building couldn't take the pressure and collapsed upon itself. The same can be said about the other nearby buildings, as they weren't doing any better.
As Ninja Tsunade used chakra to keep herself in place as she continues to throw her punches. The Hulk didn't need any ninja tricks, as both his weight and mass was enough to keep him in place. While the two may not gave an inch of their grounds, the impacts between the two were absorbed by the very ground they stood.
Those familiar in martial arts will know that's where the power of the punches come from, as it's the ground that supported the force delivered. Hence, for every attack they made, the ground they stood took the blow. Not only do they slow sink, the two were at the same time pushed back by each other's blows. Nightmare and apocalypse.
That's exactly the nightmare the two walk into when Jiraiya and Shizune finally made their way out of the building. When the Sanin hear the crashes of walls and buildings, he already knew it's too late to stop them. Nothing scares of the sight before him as the two duke it out. Shockwave after shockwave then followed as every attack made his heart skip a beat. Even if he's in perfect shape, he couldn't stop them. In fact, there's simply no force on the element nation can separate them now. No one can say the Sanin didn't try, it's just so unfortunate that he was wrapped up like a mummy, so there's very little he could do. When the two hotheads decides to settle it outside, Jiraiya struggled to follow. He was stopped by the medic's assistant for possibly agitating his injuries. Jiraiya-sama, you need to rest. Knowing how serious the situation is, he ignored her warning and tried rolling himself out of the bed.
Please, Jiraiya-sama, you are in no condition to get up. All she got in response was a forced muffled sound from him as he tries to point in their direction. It's okay. I am sure Tsunade-sama will take it easy on the young man. She read wrong what Jiraiya is trying to say, as she thinks he's worried for the kid. Despite her mentor's anger issues, she could never truly hurt a kid, or so she thinks. Drunk, or not drunk. The granddaughter of the first Hokage is also one of the Sanins, so the most she would do would be to teach the young genin a lesson. She did not see Jiraiya roll his eyes, but his insistence in getting out of his bed is getting a little tiresome, so she helped him a little. Somehow Jiraiya went a little faster than she expected. The male Sannin knows he has to stop them, because if not, it's an apocalypse waiting to happen. Before they could make it out of the door, he knew it was already too late, as he can hear someone started the fight and buildings demolishing. By the time they were out, they were just in time to witness the two smashing fists into one another. The impact was so great they can both hear and feel the shock wave. Their hearts jump and skip at every blow as they resonate from every blow. The Toad Sannin had already his share of beatings, so he's not about to jump in for another bout. Then there's his teammate, as he can anticipate her actions. If he recklessly tries to stop her, she would pummel him, then continue her fight. Injured or not, the white-haired
Jiraiya had already his own share of beatings, so he's not over-enthusiastic in joining in for another. He can already anticipate his teammate's actions. If he jump in recklessly, she would pummel him, then continue her fight. Injured or not, Jiraiya had his own fair share of mishaps during his younger days, therefore he knew very well how his once teammate will act. Yet she's the least of his concern because he more afraid of his transformed godson. He has yet to find out if the boy had forgiven him or not. So in this very moment it's very dangerous for him to show his face, as it will probably his last. For the sake of his Ika series, the Toad Sannin hesitated. The word hesitated is a modest choice of word, as he's literally rooted at the exit.
Finally, we have Shizune. Unfortunately, she has yet to pick up her own jaw, so you can expect no help from her whatsoever. In the beginning, she was a little surprised when they first heard the commotion because it sounded more like a war going on. Then a lesson. However, as the two steps out into the open, a powerful force slams into them. She was not injured, and yet she had no idea what just hit her, nor can she describe the sensation she's having. Whatever it was clearly only happened whenever the two combatant clashes against one another. One she knew as her mentor, but she had no idea whom she's fighting. Her mind may be processing the information, but somehow her conscience still needs a reboot. A green giant, the fight, the impact, and most importantly of all, her mentor losing, is just too much for her to understand all at the same time. As the two continues to watch with gobsmacked expression, 6 or 7 blows were exchanged, but none made it to its intended target. In the end, the two clashes once more, but held their hands like two wrestlers dominating for strength. Tsunade isn't known for her strength just because of her explosive punches. She is literally already a powerhouse. Thanks to her medical knowledge, she is able to distribute her chakra where it was needed the most, hence increasing her strength tenfold, if not more. Combined with her taijutsu by her own creation, her fighting powers can be described as monstrous. Hence, why either one of her teammates were deathly afraid of her. So when the two clashes, the last Senju was surprised to find herself losing in terms of strength. It's not much of a surprise, as she had the disadvantage in both height and size. Then again, there hadn't been a single entity that can best the Hulk in terms of strength. So instead of pushing, the Sannin pulled, triggering loss of balance in her opponent. Taking a similar move from Judo's overhead throw, Tamu Nage, instead of lifting and pushing her opponent with her foot, she gave him her mighty kick. The Hulk was instantly sent into the air by the surprised move. Before he can do anything, Tsunade quickly flips off the ground and follows through with her famous heel drop, taking the massive giant straight to the ground. And then more. It created a huge crater in the process as the Hulk was buried deep in the rubble. Jiraiya better had a good explanation for this.
At least she understood how he got himself beaten up, whatever that was sure packed some monstrous strength. Just when she was about to leave, a hand struck out and grabbed her before throwing her into the woods. This time it's the last Senju that got herself sent flying as she crashes into tree after tree. The Hulk too took this time to rise from the rubble before leaping after her.
He landed not far from her, just in time to see her staring right back at him. Now that he's in the woods, our green hero grab and uproot the nearest tree before charging at the still-floored Sannin. As for Tsunade, she had never been thrown around like a child since taking the title Sannin. Then again, since then, only she's the one doing all the throwing.
After shaking away the spinning forest, she's just in time to see the culprit of her current state. Shish. Her problem had only gotten worse as the big guy decides to uproot a tree. Luckily she too has her own timber beside her that broke her flight. So without thinking she threw it in his direction.
It flew like a spear and heading in the giant's face, forcing him knock it off with his tree-sized bat. However, this was a ruse as Tsunade took this opportunity to get up and close the distance. What she didn't expect was for the giant to reverse swing his weapon so quickly. By the time she realized it, it was already upon her face. Without backing down, the female Sannin met it with her own fist, thus smashing it to pieces with her monstrous strength. She completes her attack by socking him again in the jaw with her other fist. The Hulk didn't see it coming as he was a little shocked by the loss of his trusty weapon. It was perfectly executed as it pushes our favorite giant back by one huge step.
Unfortunately, the attack hadn't ended there as the blonde woman took this opportunity to slide behind to deliver a powerful hammer strike. He had lost her for less than a second, and that's all it took to send him slamming down into the ground. It's not just the Sannin with a bag of tricks as the Hulk quickly bounces back with a spinning knuckle, thus sending the surprised Sannin through a couple of trees. To Suan, the giant would look like he had a mechanical spring that sent him back up faster than he fell. Anyway, it wasn't anything special, he only used his hands to push his entire body back to standing position. The trick was it's so powerful it made him look like someone propelled him. Combined with his pivoted foot for the super swing, he's like a revolving door. Turning it into a backhand attack, the result's clearly devastating.
On the other hand, Suande was not using just any normal taijutsu, as it was partially a medical art where she targets specific nerve point for added effects. With her super strength, she could easily take down any normal human in seconds. In this case, the key element of this attack were to directly strike at the nerves behind the spine. If used correctly, it should knock anyone out temporarily. In the short amount of time they fought, she diagnosed correctly this giant is no different to any normal human being. Aside from its massive size, all parts should be no different to any men. Hence, she had hoped to knock him unconscious, thus why she had chosen this attack. However, instead of going down, he sprang back up like a catapult, hence why her shock. Darn this thing. What does it take to keep it down? Thankfully, she's still awake and not knocked out. Had it been anyone else, they would have lost long ago. She's angry, but it's hard to tell whom she was more angry with. Since the very beginning, she's been on receiving ends of shock and surprise, one after another. It made her feel like she's a genin all over again. Clearly, she has the advantage in experience simply because she has landed more blows than she received. On the other hand, as painfully as she hates to admit, this monstrous giant is by far stronger than she is. As for every blow, he could literally send her off her feet. And it's not just by a few meters. Hence, despite dishing out more blows, she had the feeling it's less effective than it really is. Then again, thanks to his superior instincts, repeating the same attack could be a danger to her as he learned to anticipate them. As if to continue the fight, the Hulk charges again at the last Senju. Seeing the incoming behemoth, Tsunade threw whatever she can get her hands on in its path. Boulders, timbers, and then more boulders. The first few slowed him down until he decides to plow through them. It surprised the blonde Sannin as the green giant suddenly picked up speed and charging through her attacks. It was too late to change her tactics just as he lurked into her. He was like an unstoppable train. Tsunade didn't even have time to drop her boulder when he tackled her. Unfortunately, the train didn't stop as it carried her through tree after tree. As if it not getting any worse, she was slammed into boulders and running through them in the process. Sadly, her train didn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon.
The Sannin had to take matters into her own hands by freeing one of her hands before slamming an elbow on her captor. It may not hurt him, but she only wants him to lower her body so her feet can reach the ground. That's when she bounces back with a powerful knee to his jaw, thus sending him high into the air. Wasting no time, the captee became the captor as she grabs his hair and proceed to ram his face into every tree she can. Payback is a bitch. Unfortunately, the Hulk recovered faster than she had anticipated. He halted her attack by stepping forth with his foot, thus stopping her. Use face's ram strategy. Nevertheless, her advantage was not over as she took this opportunity to let go his hair, reappearing behind him, and with one kick to the back of his knee she sent him down one knee in perfect height for her next move. She then completes her attack with a fast but powerful roundhouse. Thanks to her super strength, the Hulk got another face full of rocks that's the ground. Again, Tsunade did a double spin on her somersault before coming for another heel drop, sending our giant friend further and deeper into the ground.
It's another blow to Mother Natural, and unfortunately the two show no signs of stopping anytime. The Hulk pulls himself back up with an uppercut which the Sannin narrowly avoided. She had expected this, thus was prepared as well as keeping her distance. However, with one stomp he sent the earth exploding in her way, which was another surprise as it both shook the ground while sending rock fragments her way. She was forced to shield her face, especially her eyes, with a cross guard, thus giving our Hulk time to close and hammer her into the dirt. He tries to follow through with a stomp, but Tsunade quickly rolls away. Instead of rolling away from him, she actually moved close to his other leg, trapping it, thus bring him again down on one knee.
No matter how super strong you are, when one loses their balance there's a moment of helplessness. That's exactly what happened to our giant friend, thus giving the blonde Sannin an opening to swiftly grab and threw him into the air. She leapt and turned it into a dangerous, over-the-knee backbreaker, hold before slamming the Hulk down over her knee. Again she was aiming for the nerve within the spine, making her move extra deadly. There was a loud crack when they hit the ground, while at the same time adding another crater on poor Mother Earth. She then releases her opponent, letting him writhe in agony.
Then, to the wide-eyed Sannin, the Hulk slowly stood back up to his full height, holding back his pain. It then happened in an instant as he swiftly grabs her, taking her through the same motion. Only in his version he kept a firm hold on her before cracking her over his knee. Everything's in turmoil as Tsunade found herself in an extremely dangerous position. If he had connected with that, there's no telling what would happen to her, and she doubts her super healing could put her back together again. Hence, in a desperation act to survive, she grabbed hold of his hair, thus pulling his scalp just as he drops her. It was a dangerous gamble as it sent her opponent tumbling forward, while at the same time releasing his death hold on her. Another reminder not to show him any more dangerous moves. She may be lucky this time, and having been known as the legendary sucker, she didn't like her chances. Out of this experience, she discovered this big guy also has unbelievable reach too. So the fight continues. As to their two audiences, none of them wants to get between them. They knew they are still at it as the two continue to trash the environment. In fact, their battle can be heard all the way to the nearest village. Since it's late, no one bothered to come and investigate. They will have to hire ninjas to investigate. However, it will no doubt surprise them when morning comes. Sadly, the quakes and shocks would go on throughout the night, lasting till the morning. Devastation. Jiraiya was awoken by an array of sunlight, only to see the devastation before him. What was once a dead forest, it's now a crater of destruction. He didn't know how it happened, or when it became as it is, but no doubt this is the resultant fight between two titans. The Toad Sannin knew his teammate was deadly, but he never dared to test her prowess to such extent. At least he can congratulate himself for his wise choice over the years.
Seeing the area deprived of the previous landscape, he blanched. Yesterday's fight was already an eye-opener. Even without his injury, he wouldn't stand between the two monsters. Had it been any ninja, they would have long turned to mush.
He had seen how his transformed godson took two of Tsunade's deadly heals, then getting back up like it's nothing. Jiraiya knew the Hulk is near invincible, but seeing is believing. Instead of feeling broken or pain, the green giant proceeded to grab the heel before sending her into what was once a small mountain. Now that he remembers it, it's totally pulverized. His sensei, Sandaime, did say the big guy had a thing for destruction if not supervised. Now he see why, because after sending his teammate into the mountain, the Hulk charges in, not giving Tsunade time to catch her breath. However, his equally ill-tempered teammate immediately sending him flying back out. The fight was like a pointless soccer match as both sides kicked the ball back and forth without scoring a goal. It was for this reason Jiraiya fell asleep. Not that it was not spectacular, but after watching for 6 long hours and to show no signs of slowing down, it becomes tiring. Jiraiya was awake in time to see the final end of the match. Tiredly, the two threw another fist, only to completely miss each other. The two ended falling on top of one another. Tsunade tiredly rolled on her back, pushing him off of her because the giant is really heavy. The two had been going all night, and apparently neither one remember why they had the fight in the first place. They were too tired to care. Clearly a whole night of adrenaline rush can do that to you. Then, out of the blue, Hulk like Bacha. Strong Bacha Hokash. No one know how he learned the word, but Bachan is something the original Naruto had used. Then again, the Hulk probably didn't know the full meaning behind it, thus mispronouncing it. Despite his lack of verbal skills, the Hulk's words touched her heart because she had the feeling he doesn't give them often. Alright, you big oaf. Somehow not feeling so bad becoming the Hawkage than before. The idea reminded her of her lover and brother's old dream. Since they can't fulfill them, she could carry their dreams in their place. Having resolved her issue, she too fell like the big guy and into dreamland. One may ask why Tsunade could do a 180 change on her lifestyle. It was said that people get a life-changing experience when they came close to death. While it is true, it's not just from death alone, but also from extreme fighting. What both have in common are they are two extremes of human stress levels, transcending normal human limits. No one's prepared for their eventual deaths. Hence, when one recovers from one, it's no surprise they would woke up a changed person. Similarly, extreme combat can do that to you too, as your emotions were stretched to the limits. Then again, the levels these two fought were way beyond human thresholds. Hence, one can see how Tsunade was pushed to the limits.
Consider death experience as someone being pushed onto the edge of a cliff, whereas extreme fighting is someone struggling to climb to the peaks. Both were similar in a sense, as the key words are edge and peak. In another word, it could interpret as some kind of barrier or human limitation. Hence, in a way, by extreme fighting against the Hulk, Tsunade crossed some kind of emotion barrier.
Since her previous one was her loved one's death, having forced to fight the Hulk made them shallow in comparison. She will not forget them, but the new experience only made her sorrowful memory having lesser impact on her. Just to be clear, death and extreme fighting weren't the only thing that could change one's perspective. Winning and losing will also have a similar impact depending how an individual perceives them. For example, someone winning a chess tournament or someone losing everything in a casino gamble could be the same. It's all depending on one's own interpretation of success and loss. Winning a single match wouldn't be much of an impact, but having trained and trained, then eventually to win, will have quite a significant impact. In a way, it's the effort one put into the event that lead them to the end.
Looking from this perspective, Tsunade's love and loss were similar, as her relationship was built over time until it was broken by death. Her fight may fell short compare her relationship, but she was repeatedly pushed to the limits as well as exhaustion. As every blow delivered by the Hulk is like a mini death sentence. Not to mention a few close calls, hence her life-changing view.
As to the Hulk, some may wonder why he would fall so easy. Isn't he both invincible and incredible at the same time? Well, our friendly giant could be both on the outside, but mentally, he's still a 12-year-old child. His child form may be headstrong, and would never give up once he set his mind on something, but fatigue is a powerful enemy that no human could ever overcome. Hence, despite his alternative look and body size, his conscience and mind still have its limits. Those scientists researching him would also agree wholeheartedly, because no matter which body he's in, his mind's still a child's. His drive to succeed and prove others wrong may be admirable, thus pushed himself past his limits with no equal. He's still human. So for the next 2 days, both the female Sannin and our blonde little hero slept soundly, as well as peacefully. Poor Shizune had to be the one to bring them in so they can rest comfortably. Thankfully, the big green giant changed back to Naruto, as Shizune had no idea how to move him, let alone bringing him inside. It took over 50 shinobis to bring him inside the first time. In the end of the rest period, and thanks to Shizune's help, the Toad Sannin too was able to get out of his own bandages. He was just in time to see his teammate wake up so they can catch up the recent events. They talk about Naruto as well as how he came to be like this. Long story short, it was their other teammates' fault, and their sensei seemed to have most of the details. However, what Jiraiya can tell her is already quite an eye-opener.
Apparently there's also a group of scientists looking into the boy's condition that interests Tsunade. They were formed not to replicate his powers but to make sure there's no possible side or ill effects. As medical researcher, he's in a way like a gold mine ready to be uncovered. Having fought him directly herself, she had already some insight to what he can do.
Besides catching, Jiraiya also couldn't help pestering her on how she got along with the big guy. Yes, he heard their last conversation and desperately want her secret. Let's say his way of mend their relationship kind of backfired, and he ended up almost digging his own grave. What the Toad Sannin couldn't understand was in one single meeting his godson somehow got into all-buddy relationship with his teammate. 2 days ago, they were literally killing each other. Sadly, her only so-called useful advice was fight with the big guy. Having already went one-on-one with him, the white-haired Sannin blanched hearing her helpful suggestion. He seriously believed he would not survive another encounter, let alone trying to fight. As the group leaves Tandakugai, Tsunade had the feeling she had forgotten something important. Since the fight, she felt she was reborn, and the past is the past. Hence whatever it was must not be so important, thus why she ignore it. Then by the end of the week, Orochimaru showed up and waited for half a day before leaving empty-handed. He knew his teammate well. She would do anything just see her loved ones, even in the expense of betraying Konoha. It was the reason why he was so sure she would eventually turn up.
Unfortunately, after the whole night battling against the Hulk, she had totally forgot about his offer. Then again, had she remembered, she wouldn't have accepted anyway. As her fight served as a reminder of what being a kunoichi meant, as well as remembering the passion her loved ones had fought for.
So, Orochimaru can wait as long as he want. She wouldn't show up anyway. In the end, he left pissed off after Kabuto investigated the strange occurrence in nearby town. Based on the outcome, the snake Sannin cursed the green thing. He knew he must have something to do with his teammates' changed behavior. Tsunade's return.
Just as the long-lost granddaughter of the first Hokage steps through the gates of her last known home, she was amazed by all the changes. In fact, it's no longer the same Konoha she once knew. It's like someone demolished the old and completely rebuilt a new one. Then there's the old Hokage monument, at least that's not changed. She heard they had done some renovation, but the word, some, isn't very consistent as far as to what she can see. Even the very path they walk is wider. Did they just expanded the road while pushing all the buildings away? Either way, she's very impressed by the changes.
She's particularly amused by the new improvement after trying to punch her teammate through a wall. Naturally, his body never broke through, thus providing him extra pain and damage. Had it been normal materials, breaking through them would have lessened the impact damage. Unfortunately, with the new and improved changes, he's like a frog that's been thrown into the wall, only to comically slide off it.
Too bad for him. Tsunade liked the reaction and taking every chance she could for him to make her angry. Which wasn't very difficult, as Jiraiya's too predictable and he had good reasons to believe she's actually encouraging him. Hence, for the next days, Jiraiya kept himself scarce for a while. At least that's his plan until her coronation, where she's forced to behave herself. They didn't need him anymore, as his sensei can take care of the rest. Besides, he has all the news and detailed report if she's interested in reading up on Naruto. So the Toad Sannin carefully slips away for his so-called research. All he had to do is to watch out for his godson and the big guy. Unknown to him, the Hulk don't usually show up on foot, as he usually drop in without warning.
Scene near the baths.
The white-haired Sannin made a summoning sign, summoning no jutsu. What's up, old man? Two small toads appear as one asks him disrespectfully. Jiraiya mutters for no respect for the elderly. Since Naruto signed the scroll, the other toads were less inclined to work with him on his expeditions.
They had seen what the green Naruto did to their summoner. Therefore, they try to get a good impression on him. At least they don't want to be seen with the super pervert when the green Naruto catches him. Hence, Jiraiya can only bribe the younger generations of the Toad Warriors, especially Gamatotsu, as he would do anything for some human snack. That's how he managed to convince he and his brother to help him without telling them what he's really doing. Hey, will you keep an eye out for Naruto? Okay. If you do a good job after my research, I have some candies for you two later. A small sacrifice in the name of research. He think it's worth it. Alright, old man. You better not be cheap in handing them out like usual. Gamakichi likes to haggle on the prices. Don't call me old. Just keep your eyes open, especially for the green Naruto. Double or nothing. That's 2 targets. Alright. Esh. Just be quiet and keep watch. There would be no end of it if he tries to reason with him. He's better off just accepting his fate. He was just about to start when a sudden crash interrupting him.
It's Naruto, we found him. Yeah, it's him alright. Hey, old man, you alright? Come on, old man. You'd better pay up. Yes, it's the Hulk and he's literally dropping himself on top of the super pervert. Thankfully, all he did was just giving the 2 toads a strange look before leaving. At least he didn't seem to see him. In the end, Jiraiya still had to pay double snacks for the 2 toads, or they wouldn't help him next time.
That's how the white-haired Sannin ended up complaining to his sensei, demanding to put some sort of alarm on his godson. You know that kid's way of travel is lethal. You should really put at least a bell around him. He turns around, showing the ex-Hokage the footprint he had on him because of the incident.
Now looking more serious, the ex-Hokage puts 2 hands together and asks, "Just where exactly were you and what were you doing when Naruto did his drop on you? I have a guess, but I want to hear this from your mouth." He had now an accusation tone on and seems to be directing it on his student. I was just doing my usual research for my next book. Obviously he's nervous because he has a feeling there's more to be said. Apparently the girls from the baths found him since the Hulk left. They were used to the big guy's presence, but they realize he wouldn't normally show up near the baths unless something attracted him there. Since the ramen stand is in the other side of the village, they doubt he's just passing by because he could easily cover any distance with a few leaps. Thus, through curiosity and truth-seeking, they found him, thus reported the incident to the Sandaime. So as punishment, as long as he's inside the village, the gallant Toad Sannin is forced to wear a bell wherever he go.
So with a new Hokage in charge, Konoha is prepared for another generation of peace, or possibly chaos. Then again, this is the second time the Hulk is seen outside of Konoha. Those whom thinks he's just a marketing trick will have to re-evaluate his presence. Some may choose to believe, others may continue to see him just a hoax. It will still be interesting to see how the public truly see him. Either way, he will blow their mind with just his presence alone, because he's the Hulk. Hayden, oh make, this part's not offical.
That's it, you QB brat. We all heard about your giant form, so no one's scared. Like always, Hidan uses his mouth first to insult his opponent. You might as well transform now, because it will be your last before QB is extracted from you. Okay, then, without further intro, he starts his transformation, thus slowly changing him into his giant form. He was told to be extra careful when it comes to facing Akatsuki, but in his case the Hulk seems to be the safer choice. It's better than being captured as himself, so he's happy to transform first and be combat ready. That's how Hidan found himself transfixed to the transformation as he kept his sight aligned as he arced his head upwards slowly. No one told him it could get this big. Not one to admit he might be in trouble, the missing nin steal himself. That's all you've got. Ha ha, this would be a piece of cake. He didn't wait for him to complete his transformation. Swiftly he disappear and reappear behind him and swing his scythe, hoping to draw the first blood. As long as he can start his ritual, giant or no giant, it wouldn't have mattered. However, before he can celebrate, he miscalculated. He had never encountered anyone immune from being cut, especially from his weapon. What? How can this be? What blasphemy is this? How can you not sacrifice yourself in the name of Jashin? He thinks it's blasphemy someone is immune to the curses from his god. Everyone bleeds, but that is only if he can cut them. So when finding someone he couldn't slice, it's a blasphemy and insult to his almighty god. Hence why he considered the Hulk's thick skin a heresy to his path's connection to Jashin.
Then, as if finding an answer on his own, no one's completely immune, you just have to find the right places to strike, grinds the missing nin. Unfortunately, he tried a slice, a chop, or even using the spikes, they all had very little effect. He even used his scythe's bladed edge to hang on to the giant's neck, as he made full swing in hope to draw a little blood. In the end, his time's up as his weapon is caught by the giant, thus stopping his senseless assaults.
With an irritated growl, he plucked the offending weaponry before snapping it like a twig, breaking it into 2 pieces. No. What have you done, my precious? The nutjob fall to his knees in front of his broken tool. A little put off by his pathetic act, the Hulk grabs his back and slam him headfirst into the nearest tree. Ha. The strange noise stopped the big guy from going away. He pulled back the ninja only to see his deranged look all over his face. Very puzzled, this had never happened before, it's like turning off the radio that couldn't be turned off. He repeat the cycle but with a bit more strength this time. Wham, 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 wham.
A few extra whams to make sure whatever wrong with this ninja will stay down. Peace and quiet so the Hulk can again find his center, so hopefully he can change back to Naruto. At least that's how it was until the moron starts laughing again. By now, the look on the Hulk's face is just plain angry. Taking the nut job by the leg, he proceeded to swing him over his head, slamming into the pavement. He repeated the process, creating many spiderweb-like cracks as he tries to silence him. After a number of repeated cycles, he held the idiot up to see if he will finally stay quiet.
Unfortunately, not only did the craziness not stop, the ninja splat in his face. Beyond furious, he drops him, then proceeds to make stamps out of him. Despite the brutal punishment, Hidan only laughed louder. Ha, 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 ha. You can break my weapon, you can take away my weapon, but you can never defeat me. Whether he heard him or not, he didn't seem to care as he continued to push Ninja deeper into the ground. Yet throughout the entire process, Hidan continues to mock him. Ha, 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 all Jashin's followers will not be killed. By now the Hulk is actually trying to burying him with the help of a tree by shoving him deeper. Surely by now he cannot hear his annoying voice. It's not over, you hear me, I will come back. I will kill you, I will kill all your family, I will burn your village. It's faint with little echo, but you can still be hear it. So as last resort, the Hulk threw away the tree and fished him out again. There was an uncomfortable glare before everything goes dark for the so-called immortal. Once again the Akatsuki gathered, only this time it's a little different than usual. Instead of standing on their usual spots and on top of the statue, they were meeting right next to one another. So what do you think? Like I have reported before, Leader Sama, everything with the Hulk is unpredictable. I advise we gather more intel until we have information on its weaknesses before we act.
I heard you and understand your concerns, Itachi. But I am talking about what's in front of us. Oh, I must admit, this is beyond any of my expectations. As the camera zooms out, we can see the whole group is gathered around a massive table with pieces of unrecognizable lumps. If one would look closely and carefully, one can see a nose, ear, finger, etc. Just to keep the gore and blood away, the pieces will look dry and clean. I assume Hayden is a zombie.
Zetsu, is this all of what's left of him? Yeah, you should have seen it. That thing literally ripped him apart like a phone book. It was exactly what the Sandame had been dreading. With his massive size and incredible muscle, he could easily tear apart any ninja. Then again, there's not many idiots like Hidan out there.
Well, I have to say he had it coming. Had he kept his mouth shut, he would have been left alone with broken bones. He just have to run his mouth and laugh in the big guy's face. The moron kept on laughing until he had nothing to laugh with. By then, he's like what you see before you.
I have told him many times before, one day his mouth would get himself killed, says his partner Kakuzu. Alright, anyone have any suggestion in what we do with him? What about you, Kakuza? You managed to put him back together before. Yes, but that was when he was in a fewer pieces, but this is just brutal. See, I told ya. None of ya believe me. Yes, Kisame, maybe we really should have listened to you. Apparently he may have been dealt the worst card of all, as he was literally ripped to pieces, and the meeting is about how to put him back together again. There must be at least over 80 if not 200 pieces. Are you sure these are all the pieces? No one wanted to respond to that because there's still many unrecognizable parts, and not forget the unmentionables. Clearly no one wants to touch the unmentionables.
Even the usually joyous Toby is unusually quiet. We can always ask Conan. Maybe she can sew him up again. No, he's dead, says Pain. He seemed unwilling to ask his childhood friend to expose herself to such repulsive sight. It was shared by unanimous nods among the group, despite there's some moving parts indicating otherwise.
They are all missing nins, so none of them had the patiences nor time to play puzzle. Besides, it looked quite difficult already. Perhaps they can ship him to Konoha and let Tsunade have a crack, then rescue him afterwards. Or they can just pick up his bounty from Yugakure village in hot waters.